Hello friends, myself Siddharth Chauhan. Welcome to Easy Medcam. Today's part of the video we will be covering about the remaining section which we had covered about the cerebellum in the previous section of the videos. So let's start the cerebellum. We had covered in the previous section of the videos of the cerebellum that there are the four types of nuclei present in the cerebellum. They are the dentate one, which is the largest of all the cerebral nuclei, and it has a shape of the crumpled bag with the opening facing medially. So it opens medially, isn't it? And it is the largest of all the nuclei. The emboliform is a ovoid in shape and it is situated medial to the dentate nuclei. So we have to remember that it is ovoid in shape and it is situated medial to the dentate nuclei, which is the largest of all the nuclei. The globus is consists of one or more rounded cell groups that lies medial to the emboliform nuclei, isn't it? So it lies medial to the emboliform nuclei. The fastigial is the last of the nuclei of the cerebellum, and it lies near the midline in the vermis and close to the roof of the fourth ventricle. So these are the four types of nuclei which are present in the cerebellum: the dentate, emboliform, globus and the fastigial. In general or in the whole, there are four areas of the cerebellum. Four functional areas are present in the cerebellum. These are the vermis, intermediate zone, lateral zone and flocculonodular lobe. So if we are going to draw this nuclei, or the if this is the cerebellum, this is a rough diagram of the cerebellum. This portion of the cerebellum is called the vermis, isn't it? And these are the two lobes of the vermis. Of the two lobes of the cerebellum, and this is the vermis, and below this vermis the flocculonodular lobe is present. Okay, this is the flocculonodular lobe. This portion is the vermis of the cerebellum. This is the vermis of the cerebellum, or the trunk of the cerebellum. And this portion are the cerebellar hemispheres, or the two lobes of the cerebellum. Okay, so these are the lobes of the cerebellum, or the cerebellar hemispheres. Cerebellar hemispheres. And this is the flocculonodular lobe. Flocculonodular lobe. And this portion is the vermis of the cerebellum. This is the vermis, or the trunk of the cerebellum. Okay, so there are in general the four areas are present in the cerebellum. The vermis, this part of the cerebellum is called the vermis, and lateral to the cerebellum, this part is the intermediate zone. This is the intermediate zone. This part of the cerebellum which is lateral to the vermis is the intermediate zone. This is the intermediate zone, and these are the lateral zones. Okay, and this is the lateral zone. This is the intermediate zone, and this is the lateral zone. So in general, the functional areas of the cerebellum are four, which are the vermis, intermediate zone, lateral zone, and the flocculonodular lobe. So the vermis will influence the movement of the long axis of the body. It will influence the movement of the long axis of the body, namely the neck, shoulder, thorax, abdomen, and the hips are under the control of the vermis of the cerebellum. So it will influence the movement of the long axis of the body, namely the neck, shoulder, thorax, abdomen, and the hip. Whereas the intermediate zone of the cerebellum will control this area, has been shown in the control the muscles of the distal part of the limbs, especially the hands and the feet, isn't it? It will control the distal part of the limbs. And the lateral zone, each cerebellar hemispheres appear to be concerned with the planning of sequential movements of the entire body. So it will control the entire body and planning of the sequential movement of the entire body, whereas the intermediate zone will control the distal part of the limbs, and the vermis will control the long axis of the body, namely the neck, shoulder, thorax, abdomen, and the hip. Whereas the flocculonodular lobe will adjust the posture. It will adjust the posture to maintain the equilibrium and coordinate head and eye movement, isn't it? It will coordinate the head and eye movement and adjust the posture to maintain the equilibrium, isn't it? So in general, we are having the four areas in the cerebellum, which are vermis, intermediate zone, lateral zone, and the flocculonodular lobe. Vermis will control the entire long axis of the body, whereas the intermediate zone will control the distal part of the limbs, and the lateral zone will control the planning sequential movement of the entire body, and the flocculonodular lobe will adjust the posture, maintain the equilibrium, and coordinate the head and eye movements. So that's all for this part of the video. We will be covering about the remaining section of the cerebellum in the next part of the video. So do like, share, and subscribe my channel, and press bell icon for more notification, and do comments also. Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe Easy Medicam, and press bell icon for more notification.